Good morning, everybody. Rage Quitting here. I got a lot of questions about keybinds and how to set up keybinds. I guess there's still a lot of players that click their abilities and stuff like that, and they're asking me about easier ways to transition into keybinding and stuff like that. And a lot of people, yeah, a lot more people than I thought actually, click their abilities. Even some of my friends in guild still click on their abilities, and that's completely fine. If you haven't been playing MMOs for a long time, or you haven't really been a gamer, but then you get into Star Wars and nobody really teaches how to keybind if you don't know. So the first thing people just default to is clicking their skills, because when you first start the game, even in your preferences and stuff, like your movement and stuff like that, everything is, even moving is defaulted to keyboard turning. So naturally I can understand why people would just keep the defaults and use Q and E or whatever it is to keyboard turn and all that kind of stuff. But I'm gonna try and explain to you guys as best I can the way to transition from keyboard turning and clicking to key binding, okay, and mouse turning, and why it's important to do this. I have a setup here for, see, I have my saved keybinds here. I have non-macroed and macroed keyboard setup, because I have a Corsair Scimitar mouse that I just recently picked up within the last like 6 months or something like that. So, but every now and then I'll go back to using standard keyboard keybinds, just because it's one of those things that I don't want to lose the skill of being able to use the keyboard. I don't know, just in case my mouse breaks or something like that and I have to revert back to using the keyboard. But either way, macros, I already talked about macros in a different video, but so this video is gonna specifically talk about keyboard keybinds, okay, and not using the mouse. So first off, in the preferences here, I removed the S key as a back pedal, so I don't have a back pedal at all, and I don't have any keyboard turning keys, okay? Everything is either strafe left or strafe right with A and D, okay? So like this. Close this. Right? So everything is strafing, and I always just hold down the right mouse button, right mouse button to turn the camera, okay? The only time I'll use the left mouse button is if I want to travel forward, but I want to check what's behind me, okay? That's when I'll use the left mouse button and turn the camera behind me while I'm moving forward, okay? So, and for key binding, you want to free up as many keys as you can. So that's why removing back pedal completely just frees up another key to use as a skill, okay? And backpedal is really not all that useful anyway, especially as a melee. I could see maybe for ranged classes backpedal being useful, but at the same time, backpedal, you move slower when you're backpedaling, first of all, right? You don't move as fast as you do when you're running like this, or when you're strafing side to side. When you backpedal, you move like significantly slower. So that's why I don't use it. If you need to get away from something, like let's say this is an enemy here, instead of backing up straight, moving backwards, straight backwards, you can just turn your camera and strafe. You can still attack him and strafe away like this, okay, and keeping them in your screen. And really, you don't even have to keep them in your screen. Like if you turn, as long as they're not completely 180 degrees behind you, you can still cast on them if you're playing ranged, okay? So anyway, That's, getting rid of backpedal, okay? And then also you need to get rid of turning left and turning right. All you need is strafe left and strafe right. Um, okay, and then, move forward is still on W, okay? Oh, move backward. Look, I have it on down arrow instead of the S key. I don't know why. But see how slow you move when you're backpedaling instead of just turning and strafing like this, right? See how slow backpedal is? So it's pretty useless in PvP, honestly. And then also the reason why you want to get rid of keyboard turning and use the mouse to turn, is because, let me just get a operation dummy in here. So let's say this is the enemy, right? Let me just set so I have the left arrow and right arrow as turning, right? So, and if, okay, so mouse turning is just faster, right? Boom, 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 right? If this is a enemy player and I'm fighting him and I move behind him like this, like you can run through the enemy, right? You can just run through them and turn around. If I was this guy and I was keyboard turning, it would take me this long to face him, right? And then I'd have to, if he runs through me again, because I do this all the time, okay? Like, getting behind people makes them turn toward you in order to cast, right? Especially if you're 180 degrees behind them. Like, they can't cast anything on you if you're directly behind them. So in PvP, I run behind people. I try to stay behind them all the time to force them to turn around, because it's like an extra action that they have to do in order to fight me, instead of just standing directly in front of them, then they can, roll their skills on me. If you move behind the target, then it's just a little extra something that they have to do in order to keep up with you. And if you're a keyboard turner like this, right, then I'll run behind you, cast on you. By the time you finally, turn around like this, then I'll just run through you again, cast on you, and then run through you again. It's just, it's pretty funny, especially if their keyboard turning is slow. Then it just takes all that extra time that they have to turn, and then, by the time they turn to you, I already casted like 2 or 3 skills, and then, you get wrecked. But anyway, that's the importance of mouse turning and not keyboard turning. And then we're gonna get into how to actually set up for key binding, okay? So on your quick bars, right, if you're using a keyboard, your left hand, to move is standard, WASD, right, to move. But in my case, I remove S so we can free that up for another spot, okay? Now you want to be able to set your quick bars up so that you can hit as many keys as you can without moving your hands too far away from your movement keys, okay? So example here, main quick bar, I have Q, S, E, R, T, okay? And T is as far as I'll go because, I don't want to reach all the way to Y. But, if you're comfortable with that, then go for it, okay? And then on the next one, I just go down one row on the keyboard and just continue from there, right? So F, G, and that's as far as I want to reach on my keyboard is G. So I'm not going to go all the way to H, right? Because it's just too far of a stretch, okay? And then I go down one more row on my keyboard and start at Z. So Z, X, C, V, okay? You could use B too if you wanted to, but because your thumb is like right there on the space bar, maybe you can move your thumb up to hit B, but that's as far as I go right there. It's just V, okay? And then yeah, so this one could be B, but I have it as Shift F. So if you see here on my first quick bar up here, it's just Q, S, E, R, T, F, G, Z, X, C, V, Shift F, okay? And then on the next one, then you start using the number keys, okay? I use numbers 1 through 5. You could go 1 through 6 if you're comfortable with reaching that. I'm not, so I just go 1 through 5. And now since you've used up, 1 through 5, and then you used up all the alphabetical keys that are comfortable to hit. Now, if you still need more keybinds, then you just start using shift keys. Okay, so now I have, you know, if I go down here, right, on this bar here, now I have shift 1, shift 2, shift 3, shift 4. I don't really like hitting shift 5, so I'm using shift space bar. Okay, and then again with the alphabetical keys, shift Q, shift S, shift E, shift R, and then shift C. Okay, and then I have shift T down here. And you know, you could go, you know, if you have big hands or you're comfortable with hitting F keys, then, you know, maybe you can use F1 through F4. But this is the way I have it set up, just to give you guys an idea of what you need to do. And then as far as the skills itself on the bar, you know, all my fighting abilities are on the easiest keys to hit, because those are the ones that you're going to hit more often, right? Like your damaging abilities that are part of your rotation, right? So for example, you know, force charge, ravage, battering assault, you know, vicious throw, and then assault, like it's on my 1 through 5, and then, you know, gore, massacre, ferocity, devastating blast is, you know, Q, S, E, R. So, and I don't have it's not like too specific, like as far as like rotation goes. Like this is definitely not the rotation, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, Q, S, E, R. But it's just in certain places that I feel comfortable and that I know what skill I'm hitting when I reach my finger to a certain spot, you know. And it's just like build the muscle memory. Like if you're going from clicking to key binding, it's going to be very difficult to make this like transition, and I can understand, you know, because it's just something you're completely not used to. So even if you're playing on your main class, but you're trying to switch from skill clicking into key binding, it's going to be as if you've never played this game ever before in your life, because you're just completely starting all over from the beginning. So what I would suggest is, I don't know, maybe not key binding everything all at once, and maybe just key binding 5 skills, you know, maybe 1 through 5, and then clicking the rest of it. Or I don't know what's the best way to transition, but or get on the dummy here and then just actually go through your rotation on the thing and try to get that muscle memory down, right? Like this. So yeah, but either way, your main rotation damage wise should be on the easiest things to hit, and so for me it's, you know, 1 through 5, and then Q, S, E, R, right? And then things that are not used as often are obviously going to be on keys that are, you know, that you don't hit as often, right? Or that are not like the most super comfortable ones, right? Because the most super comfortable ones should be the ones that you would be using a lot. Okay, and then, like for example, here I have my defensive abilities, and you know, I have my dual saber throw on shift 1. But my defensive abilities, you know, Cloak of Pain, the Warzone Adrenal, my Saber Ward, and my Undying are on shift keys, and they're all lined up in a row right here, so it's easy for me to remember and hit, right? So if I'm going through a rotation or whatever and I'm fighting, and all of a sudden I have to hit one of my defensive abilities, and it's just like, oh shit, you know, shift 2, shift 3, shift 4, you know. And then the reason why I have Undying on shift space, you know, this might be like for some of you, maybe your barrier, you know, the sorcerer oh shit button, right? Or if you're playing a mercenary, your reflect or something should be on something that you're not gonna fat finger, right? You're not gonna accidentally hit it when you don't want to. So that's why for me it's on shift space, because when it was on shift 5 in the past, you know, sometimes I would hit shift 4 to hit my saber ward, but I'll hit shift 5 on accident, like fat finger it, and then I'll use my Undying Rage for no reason. So that's why I have it on shift space. So like this. Yeah. Okay. And then also your CC breaker. You don't want to fat finger a CC breaker because you know, sometimes you just don't want to use it, but you know, whatever. So that's why, okay, so this is on shift Q. And then utility, my other utility skills is all on single keys, right? Not shift keys, but they're all away from my rotation keys, right? Like T, F, G, Z, X, C, you know, V. This is all farther away from my damaging abilities, so that I don't ever, you know, accidentally fat finger these, right? I use it when I need to. Yeah, and some people are asking about like, you know, movement and stuff like that, like while you're hitting your keybinds, because see, the advantage to having a mouse, even if you don't use macros, but having a mouse that has a lot of buttons on the side, instead of keybinding, you know, instead of actually hitting the keyboard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, I could have all my damaging abilities down here going from 1 through the equal sign, and I wouldn't have to hit the keyboard for it. I could just hit the individual mouse buttons on my mouse, and that frees up your left hand for all this movement, right? While you're just using your thumb on the mouse to hit all these skills, right? But if you're using a keyboard, you know, unless you're holding down the left mouse button and the right mouse button at the same time, like this, right? Right now I'm holding left mouse and right mouse button down. So now I can freely move like this while hitting my abilities like this, right? Yeah, but for the most part I'm just holding the right mouse button down and strafing. And sometimes if I have to, like, let's say for example, dual saber throw, I have to take my middle finger off of W, the W key, right? W is how I move forward, right, with my middle finger. Every time I want to throw my dual saber ward, I'm forced to remove my middle finger from the W key in order to put it on the 1 key, right? Because it's shift 1, right? So like this. So you saw me stand still for a moment there because I was forced to lift my finger off the W key. If I don't want to stand still, then that's when I'll use, you know, the right mouse button and the left mouse button and hold it down so that I can move forward, right? So, you know, if I don't want to stand still while throwing it, then I hold down both mouse buttons and then do it like this. Okay? But yeah, so basically, you know, just if you're moving to key bindings, give yourself some time. Don't get discouraged. It's gonna feel weird and it's gonna be awkward, but I think the best thing you can do is either level up another character, maybe start leveling an alt of the same class you already have, and you know, start working with those abilities as you get them, you know, and go into low level PvP, you know, if you don't want to get, you know, destroyed at 70s when you're trying to learn something new. Go into low level PvP and set up your keybinds and try to learn, you know, that way. And then the best advice I can give you too is, you know, because this is all muscle memory. You have to build your muscle memory with this. Like for me, I've played with, you know, keybinds, you know, for the, you know, since I started playing this game like five years ago or whatever. So I can kind of just come back to it and it'll be natural for me. But at the moment I use macros, right? But yeah, I can still come back and run my rotation on this, and it'll still feel okay. But yeah, the best thing you can do is, if you're making another character and you're gonna play this class and relearn how to do, you know, keybinds, since you already know the class, you should set up the skills in a way that that it's gonna be the same no matter what level you are, right? So for example, if I was level 1 right now, or level 10 Marauder, I would put the skills in the same spot that it would be when I hit level 70, right? So just because you're level 1, level 1, you have leap, right? Force charge. That's on 1, or whatever. But, and you have assault, and you have like, what, vicious slash or something, so it's gonna be like 1, 2, 3. I wouldn't leave those keys there, forever. I would move them. If I was level 10 right now, I would put my assault on 5, and I would put my force charge on 1. I would put my saber ward on shift 4. Even if there's no skills, even if there's no other skills to use, and everything is blank, and I only have those 4 skills, I would still put them in the same spot I would have them when I'm level 70, so that you build the muscle memory, and you don't have to move your shit around as much, because when you're leveling, when I was leveling for the first time, I didn't I didn't know, so I just had them wherever, and every time I got a new skill, I'm like, oh shit, I have a new skill, where am I gonna put it? As, like, oh, I want it here, but this is here, so I have to move this, so anyway, just try to set it up so that they're gonna be in the same spot for when you're from high level to low level. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's all I really gotta say about it. I mean, so in preferences here, so movement, right? Move backward. You can just get rid of that. I just have it on the down arrow because I removed it from S. I don't ever use it though. So move forward with W. I guess you can move forward with S if you wanted to. So it could be like A S D instead of A, W A N D. But strafe left, strafe right. There is no turn left, okay? Do not turn left with your keyboard. Do not turn right with your keyboard. Just turn your mouse, okay? Right click, turn your mouse. And set up your DPS or your healing rotation in the easiest places to hit, which is, Q down the line to T maybe, and then 1 down the line to 5. And then have, just, you gotta play around with it. But yeah, hope this video helped. I don't know what else to talk about with this, but I hope it helped. I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you on another one. Peace.